Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel, Whittington Consulting, where you will learn all things about LGBTQ. If this is not your jam, keep scrolling. You don't have to DM me to tell me I need to find Jesus and repent and stuff like that. Trust me and God are good. Swipe left. So today, we're going to be talking about outing, and being outed. What does that mean? What are the consequences of that? And how about showing a little bit of personal respect for those that we may know may be a part of this population. So you may recall actress Rebel Wilson, who was going to be outed by a newspaper. So she takes matters into her own hands and outs herself, okay, with her current girlfriend. Now here's the thing about that. Like I said earlier, once you're out or rumored as being out, there's really no going back in. You just can't. So I don't know if people understand how detrimental this can be to you for your career, professional development, your career as an actress. Like maybe she wants to start playing some dramatic roles where there's like these intense love scenes. And people are going to be thinking about that. I mean, that's a lot to think about when you are living your own life personally, privately, and then some media outlet is sending you a message saying you've got 2 days to respond to this. What are you going to do? Like, they're upset about it, but I think she did the right thing. But why should she be forced to do that? Now, some people say, oh, there should be more people out in Hollywood, so it'll be easier for everybody. And yeah, I mean, maybe that is true, to be easier, more normalized. But for some folks, they just don't want to because they know it affects their career. All right? Some people are and some people are not. Now, we have to think about some of the risks that are involved with that. Nearly 50% of LGBTQ plus people hide in the workplace for fear of being passed over for promotions, for fear of discrimination. And all of these things happen, believe it or not. It's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of people that I know. So there's also the issue of psychological safety, where sometimes people just feel like it's not safe. You know, people have very strong views about this. I'm in a public place now. I know people are listening to me. I don't know what they think. Now they're going to see me after, oh, there goes the gay girl. You know, we have to think about those kind of things everywhere we go because we live in a heteronormative world, a world that says men should be with women should be with men, there's no Adam and Steve, there's Adam and Eve. You've heard all of those things. Well, that's the world that we live in, the heteronormative binary society. And we have to make a conscious decision if we want to sort of buck the system, so to speak, and be our true selves. Now, the benefit of that is that you feel very free. And it's like, hey, you don't like it? No problem. Whatever floats your boat, but I'm free to be me. I can put a picture of my wife on my desk and not fear someone coming and disgracing it. So when someone confides in you that they are part of this population, it is then not your duty to out them. In other words, to tell everyone about this. So recently there's a young trans woman on TikTok who was working in a male-dominated field. She ran into a prior co-worker that she had known before she had transitioned. And she said to him, please don't say anything. Because she was doing great at this job. Well, Big Blabbermouth had to say something because someone said to him, hey, why don't you date her? And he said, I don't date men. This caused so much trauma for this woman. She was in her car crying. Everybody started staring at her. They were making fun of her. She said everybody was looking below the waist, trying to figure out what she had down there. It was just horrible. Now, she has since gone to HR, and they have discussed this with the person who outed her. And who knows what the results are going to be, because a lot of companies do not have really strict enforceable policies around transphobia, homophobia, those type of things. So we really have to start looking at that and seeing, hey, is this tolerated in your organization? Is there a no tolerance policy for this, and is it enforced? Very important. So that's outing, all right? Telling somebody's business when they tell you they're part of the population. You go and tell other people you have then for outed them. And what I want to make sure that you understand, if you don't hear anything else I'm saying today, once you are outed, there's no going back in. You can't go back in. Whether it's a rumor. I could be walking around with my husband right now and they'd be, hey, you know she's really gay. You just can't go back in. So I want you to understand the significance of doing this to someone. It can really cause irreparable damage to their career, their relationships, so many things. And I think a lot of times as straight people, you're like, so what? I don't care. You're watching this video now. You're not one of those people, right? But a lot of people do care. People have very, very strong views about this. So please don't out anyone if they tell you that. They're telling you. They're not telling the whole world. They're not telling the whole company that they work for. They're telling you they've trusted you with this information. We have to make the decision if that's something that we want to do. Me personally, I got outed at my job by a big blabbermouth, and it was frightening for me because I was like, oh my God, these people have known me for 10, 12, 15 years. What are they gonna think about me, you know? And did it change some dynamics at work? You bet your bottom dollar it did. Did my old boss start to try to sabotage my career? Yeah, she did. So please think about that. Let me say, coming out is not easy. It's not easy because we don't know what you're going to think about us. We don't know what your views are on this topic. And trust me, you're going to hear me say it over and over. People have very strong views about this. However, I challenge you to find me one person who has not been impacted by someone from the rainbow community. They either work with someone, family member, friend, someone in the community. Because, you know, we're everywhere, whether you know it or not. We're in your grocery stores, your communities, your banks, and we go shopping, and, you know, we're sitting right next to you in church. Yes, because we are believers as well, many of us. I'm faith-based. And we know that people sometimes will say things, homophobic slurs, transphobic slurs, when they don't know who's in their presence. Example, I have a really good friend, like probably one of my best friends, who is a female, cisgender female, works in a male-dominated field, and knew from day one that she could not be out. Somehow, she just knew. And people were telling her, oh, it's 2023, it's 2025, man, it's cool, you know, you can be out, everybody's cool with it. Up here in the north, where everybody's open and liberal. And she just was like, you know what? I don't think so. So she's been working in this industry now, going on 20 years. And the things that she has heard at breakfast and lunch, y'all, because they don't know, right, is disheartening. You know, when we have conversations and she tells me about some of the things that these people are saying at breakfast and lunch, and she's like, you know, that would be me if they only knew. And so she can work with, because they work one-on-one in pairs always. And, you know, there was this one guy that she really, really liked, and she was like, oh my God, he's so cool, family guy, loves his wife, just really overall great guy. And one day he comes to work and he's really upset. And my girlfriend's like, hey, what's in your craw today? And he goes, yeah, you know, my nephew, he wants me to come to a wedding of his. But there's no way in HELL that I'm going to go to a fudge cracker wedding. And she's like, what? He's like, I'm not going to no gay wedding. Two guys, that's disgusting. And prior to that, like, she just thought, wow, this is the coolest guy ever. You know, she didn't often share her phone number with them, but they were texting back and forth as friends. And then she found this out, and it just kind of, you know, tainted her view of him, because she thought he was, you know, more open than that. And she said, well, do you love your nephew? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, do you want your nephew to be happy? He's like, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe you don't agree with it, but at least you can support your nephew. He's happy, he's in love, he's getting married. I'm sure he would love to have your support. And he was like, no way, I'm not going. So that's what I mean by people having very strong views. You know, I worked with a secretary for many years, and I was in the closet, you know, and then one day she heard the rumor, and she actually came in and asked me about it, which I thought was pretty, I was like, wow, I respect that. And she said, are you that away? What's that away? Where'd that come from? Are you that away, Shannon? And I was like, are you asking me if I'm gay? Yeah. Yes, I am. And she says, I can't get with that, Shannon. I just, I can't. And I was like, okay, So she left, and she talked to one of my buddies. I don't know if she knew she was my buddy, but she talked to one of my buddies, and my buddy was like, well, has Shannon ever came on to you? And she's like, no. And this was an older lady about ready to retire. And she goes, and has she ever touched you inappropriately or said anything inappropriate to you that made you think, maybe she was into you? And she was like, no, never. And have you ever seen her act any way inappropriately at work around other girls or women? And she was like, no. She says, so she's the same. She just happens to be gay. What's wrong with that? It's still Shannon. You like her a lot. She's one of your favorite managers, right? And she's like, yeah. So about a week or two passed, and she came back into my office again, and she said, Shannon, I really like you. And, I don't really agree with you being that way, but I have to accept it because I really like you. I mean, I love you. And I was like, okay, great. And we gave a hug, and it was over. And she was fine after that. So sometimes it just takes processing. People have to come to terms with it, family members, friends, colleagues. And most of the time I find that over time people come around, but not always. It just depends on how they've been socialized. So please be mindful of that if someone shares that secret with you. I hope that you will join for more videos. Hit the like and subscribe button so you can be notified of future videos where I talk about all things LGBTQ+. And I'll see you in the next one. Keep being fabulous, everybody. Bye.